What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate, and welcome to my channel. Today, I'm going to be uploading for you guys my Week 9 college football predictions. And if there's any week where the chaos and upset, just mayhem that college football can have is going to reign supreme, it's going to be this week right here. There are a couple of really interesting top 25 matchups, but a lot of upset potential games this week. I apologize for my voice and the way I sound. My throat's been killing me lately, and I'm pretty congested, but I got water, and I've been taking care of myself, so I apologize for that, but just a fair warning on why I may sound maybe just a little bit off. But hey, if this is your first time on the channel or you've been on the channel for a long time, welcome. Either way, a couple things you can do to help support me here. Hit the subscribe button first off. That's the biggest thing you can do. You can ring the bell as well. Also, like the video, share the video, leave a comment down below. Any way you interact with the channel means a lot to me. So let's dive in now to Week 9 predictions. Starting off with the TCU Horned Frogs going on the road to take on the West Virginia Mountaineers. Before I dive on in, all lines and odds are, as of recording this video, they are subject to change. TCU enters this game the 7th ranked team in the nation and the only undefeated team left in in the Big 12 Conference. But the Mountaineers have set a trap before. They set a trap against Baylor. They're going to be able to set another one here. We all know West Virginia has the capabilities to do so, but there are a couple things that helped West Virginia beat Baylor just a couple of weeks ago. One, the Mountaineer offense was efficient. I think they scored 43 points in that game. They're going to have to be efficient again because this is a much better TCU offense. It's one of the best offenses in the nation. Max Duggan's been playing really well as of late. So West Virginia's got to come ready to play on the offensive end. But again, I just mentioned that offense and how good TCU has been, not only with Max Duggan and through the air, but they're weaponizing Quentin Johnson. That's through the air. Their ground game is going really well as well. But defenses are going to be key in this game. If West Virginia brings the offensive intensity that they're going to need to be able to pull this upset off, TCU, hey, their defenses have shined in late game situations for the past 2 weeks. And West Virginia's got a lot of playmakers on that defense that definitely are well more than capable of stepping it up here in a big-time moment when it matters most. But this is going to be a very interesting game, definitely a trap game for TCU as you go on the road to play West Virginia there. The only undefeated team left in the Big 12. West Virginia's going to look to change that, but I don't see it happening. I think TCU, especially with that offense, is just too dynamic of a team. And while West Virginia keeps this one close, I got the Horned Frogs pulling this one out by 4 points. West Virginia battles. The offensive intensity is there, but TCU's defense comes up clutch yet again late, and the Horned Frogs remain unbeaten through 9 weeks. Another upset alert game here, but this time the team that's on upset alert is at home. The Syracuse Orange are playing host to the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and while Notre Dame, this is not the season that a lot of people expected them to have, this is still a season in where Notre Dame is now starting to find its groove. And Syracuse just dropping their first game of the year, a not necessarily heartbreaker, but quite a tough loss to the Clemson Tigers. And Syracuse hopes of an ACC title game may now be shot. However, still got some good games on the schedule, including this one here. Notre Dame is starting to find themselves, though, especially on the ground. They've been able to run the ball pretty well here as of late, and we'll see if that plays into any success. But when you know anything about Syracuse over here, it's that their run game is really good with Garrett Schrader and Sean Tucker. That's the quarterback and running back duo. And even, can't think of his first name, but Gadsden, that wide receiver, gives them a really good option outside. But again, Notre Dame has started to find themselves, and the Irish are going to benefit here if they start this game strong. Going on the road to play in the Dome is not always the easiest thing. But Notre Dame, if they have something that's really, really good, it's that defense. And I think that defense has proven most weeks that it is really, really, truly is a solid unit and is capable of limiting the big plays that a team like Syracuse is going to throw at you, which again leads me to the next point. The defense will need to step up in clutch moments because if you look at the third bullet point, Well, the Orange play good complementary football. If their defense isn't getting the job done, their offense does. If their offense isn't getting the job done, then their defense does. So Syracuse playing really good complementary football, I think will be huge in deciding this game. The Orange come in ranked 16th in the nation. But again, if there's going to be a week where college football chaos is going to start to reign, and I know my prediction here might seem like, well, yeah, that's the obvious pick, but considering the way these two teams have played, this is an upset that I'm picking right here. I am picking the Notre Dame Fighting Irish to go on the road and beat the Syracuse Orange. We've had some games here and there in the college football season where the underdog has surpassed. Again, this is the week where you're going to see 2, 3, or 4 big underdogs, and maybe one that's not even on this list, come out on top. Notre Dame's not a big underdog, and they definitely have what it takes to win this game. Notre Dame is well more than capable of coming away with a win, and I think they get it done. This is a noon game on ABC. This one should be a lot of fun to watch. But how about the game of the week here in FBS? Again, game day not going here. They're going to, I believe, it's Southern and Jackson State, which, okay, justifiable. I think Jackson State is undefeated. But this game right here, whew, this game is going to tell a lot about both Ohio State and Penn State. This is the big noon kickoff game on Fox, a top 15 matchup, and probably game of the week here. Penn State coming off a whiteout performance against Minnesota, while Ohio State is coming off another rout in which they smashed the Iowa Hawkeyes, albeit the offense may have looked a little shaky to start that game. Jackson Smith-Njigba is expected to be back, but may be on a snap count for this game here against Penn State. For the Ohio State Buckeyes, this is going to be their toughest test yet. Now, the way their schedule is shaped up, they've already played teams like Notre Dame and Wisconsin and Iowa and Michigan State. And you know what? Those were supposed to be a lot tougher of games than they really appeared out to be. So this is definitely going to be the biggest test for Ohio State yet. Offensively, defensively, they're definitely going to have to look really sharp in order to get by Penn State here. But when you look at the Penn State side of thing, the one thing that you have to try to slow down is C.J. Stroud and that dynamic Ohio State offense, which, let's face it, the Buckeye offense is tough to stop, let alone even slow down for a mere second. Notre Dame was able to do it, but albeit that was the first game of the year. Iowa was able to limit what they could do on the ground, and that's something Penn State has been very good at for the most part this year. I say for the most part because if you remember back in that Michigan game, yeah. So if Penn State can't stop the run early, could be a long day for Nittany Lion fans. But I think they're going to learn from the game against Michigan. I think they're going to come out here, play a really good first half, and this is going to be a one-possession game. If not, Penn State might have to lead at halftime. Ohio State's favored by 15. I just think that spread is too high. Penn State is going to cover, but what I think makes the difference here in this game, Penn State has really good players offensively. They have really good players defensively. Ohio State, much the same thing. This is not the whiteout game. This is not going to be your typical atmosphere in Happy Valley. Yes, this is going to be a loud crowd with a lot of fans there, and yes, but in my opinion, it does make a difference when a game is played and the circumstances behind it. This being a noon game, an earlier kickoff. If this was a night game, you guys know where I lean in terms of my college football fandom, but I might just be tempted to pick the upset here, but there are a couple things preventing me from doing that. One, again, it is an earlier kickoff time, but hey, when I go ahead and look at this game, I think it's going to be a really evenly played game regardless of kickoff time. But the other thing preventing me from doing it is just Ohio State has looked so good, and I just don't know if Penn State's going to be equipped to hang with Ohio State for 4 quarters. I think they can hang with them for 3 quarters, absolutely, but this Ohio State offense, eventually their offense is going to spark. That defense that's been playing so well is going to show up, and I got the Ohio State Buckeyes. This game is going to be close throughout, make no mistake, but I got the Buckeyes pulling away late from the Nittany Lions, 38-28, to set up a possible winner-take-all scenario here once we get down the line in the game in Columbus against that team up north. Okay, here's where some more upset potential starts to sneak its way in. The Oregon Ducks go on the road against Cal, and I don't know why this is. Oregon fans, you may be able to answer me. Cal fans, you also may be able to answer me, but honestly, neither of you might be able to answer me either. That was phrased horribly, but you get what I mean. The Oregon Ducks seem to always have trouble with the California Golden Bears, and it doesn't matter the year, and it doesn't matter what the circumstances, just every single year when Oregon finds themselves in a scenario like this, they're coming off a big-time win, they're feeling really good about themselves, and this team is getting a lot of praise, but it's a young coaching staff, or not a young, it's a new coaching staff with a new quarterback, and they're getting a lot of praise, and they got to go on the road to play Cal. A team that you can't afford to overlook, but there are a couple things that have to happen for Cal to pull this out. Cal's offense needs to get hot, and it needs to stay hot. This is the California offense that has struggled to find points this year with Jack Plummer at quarterback. They got to be able to really find that rhythm and get this thing moving. And the Ducks defense started to turn a corner last week. Did not play well in the game against Georgia. I know that's the game that everyone goes back and harps on with this Oregon team, and that they got blown out by the reigning national champs. But the Ducks defense has started to turn a corner, and they are looking really, really good. Part of the reason why right now I think Oregon is the best team in the Pac-12. And also harping back on what California is going to need to do to win this game, their pass rush needs to get home. If their pass rush does not get pressure on Bo Nix and can't keep him in the pocket long enough to be able to bring him down before he gets rid of the ball, Bo Nix has shown his ability to run this year, and that's really going to hurt Cal. I like Cal on the points here. I do not like Cal to get the win. It's just too many factors going against Cal. This team has struggled to find points, and Oregon is playing their best football right now. Definitely could be a trap game scenario, but I do not think Oregon is going to fall victim to that scenario. I got the Ducks winning this one by 12. So I would take Cal on the points, but I'm going to go ahead and take Oregon with the win. The Wake Forest Demon Deacons going on the road to play the Louisville Cardinals. If you remember this game last year, I believe Wake Forest won on a game-winning field goal. Yeah, heartbreak for Louisville. Now, you get Wake Forest at home. But Wake Forest is playing some really good ball right now and enter this game as 3.5-point favorites. Ooh, this is going to be an interesting one to watch. The Cardinals secondary, though, is going to need to step up big time because Sam Hartman and A.T. Perry are threats that you have to be aware of at all times. Sam Hartman has played really well this year. His top target in A.T. Perry has been just as advertised as well. And this is a Louisville secondary that has struggled at points this year, so it's got to take a big step up here if they're going to want to be able to pull off this win against Wake Forest. Also, what Louisville is going to have to do, use that run game to their advantage. Louisville's run game is really, really good, and they have a lot of really talented running backs back in the running back room that's able to get the ground game moving for Louisville. And the Deacons' run defense hasn't necessarily been the best at times this year. In fact, the defense overall has been kind of lackluster, and something that's not on this board that I should mention, when you have one of the most dynamic playmakers in Malik Cunningham playing quarterback for your team, and you go up against a defense that has looked shaky this year, that's a huge advantage for your offense. The one thing that I'm hesitant about with Louisville, though, is their inconsistency is a big problem. That's why I think this game and any game that you're going to predict Louisville in is very, very hard to predict because of the fact that you never know what you're going to get from Louisville on a week-to-week basis. Well, this, in my opinion, is going to be chaos week, and I think chaos is going to reign supreme. I got Louisville pulling the upset here. Yeah, I think this is going to be a game where Louisville has built some momentum from their previous performances. I think they're going to stay here at home and avenge their heartbreaking loss from last season. I think Malik Cunningham's going to have a really good game, and I think Sam Hartman stays with them every step of the way. I just think Louisville does that little bit extra to pull away with the upset victory. You got the Illinois Fighting Illini now going on the road to take on the Nebraska Cornhuskers in a big game in the Big Ten West. The Illini are the highest ranked team out of the Big Ten West. In fact, I believe the only ranked team out of the Big Ten West, and they currently lead that division as well. But the fans and players in Lincoln are not going to let the Illini take this one easy. However, I don't think chaos is going to reign here, and I'll tell you why. The Illini are 7.5-point favorites, And something I'd be interested to see is how the Huskers' game plan is going to work offensively. They like to take shots to Trey Palmer, who's just playing on another planet right now. I mean, he has played so good for this team. Casey Thompson has been pretty solid himself as well. Anthony Grant has really emerged this year. He's going to be a stud. Nebraska's got a lot of really good offensive threats, and they use them really effectively. But this is an Illini defense that leads the nation in, I believe, both of these categories: fewest yards allowed per game and fewest points allowed per game, which does not bode well for this Husker offense at all. Illinois is playing some really, really good ball. And also be curious to see Chase Brown in that rushing attack. Chase Brown currently leads the nation in rushing, but he's playing in a very beneficial system with Illinois and Brett Bielema. You know what you're going to get from Brett Bielema, more of a ground and pound style game plan, right? You're going to be able to run the ball for 30 times a game, which is what Chase Brown has done. And at best, this Nebraska run defense has just looked shaky. At best, this is a run defense that has not been great this year, and that's got to flip around if the Huskers want to pull out a win. Otherwise, Chase Brown may have a very electric day. And another thing that's keeping me from picking this upset is the Huskers have to be disciplined with the ball, which they just haven't been. For as good as Casey Thompson has been, he's turned the ball over. Fumbles are a problem for this team, and the Illini are too good of a defense for you to have miscues like that in this game, which is why I think the Illini go into Lincoln. It's the 3:30 slot on ABC, and I think the Illini pull out of Lincoln with a win. My final score, 24-17. The Florida Gators and Georgia Bulldogs. This game is in Jacksonville, Florida, and, well, you see the line down there, right? 22.5 is what the point spread is, and there are reasons for that, absolutely, and I'm going to talk about them here. But the first matchup is, I really want you guys to watch this, because I think this is going to be the matchup of the game to watch, right? The Florida Gators offensive line, they have been so good this year in opening up holes for Anthony Richardson to scramble out of, being able to enable this run game there as well. The Gators have had a really good offensive line up to this point in the season. But for as good as the Gators offensive line has been, the Georgia Bulldogs defensive line has been just as good. They have been all over the place. They have some really, really good players there. And I know Jalen Carter is battling through some things there as well. But, hey, Georgia's playing some really, really good ball on the defensive side. And they're going to make life hard for the Florida offensive line. So Florida's offensive line has got to be able to push around Georgia's defensive line, which, let's face it, might not exactly go as planned if you are a Florida Gators fan. But Georgia also has to solve the Anthony Richardson problem. Anthony Richardson himself has to solve the Anthony Richardson problem, because Anthony Richardson has been inconsistent this year. And if Richardson can find his game and really find his dual threat ability where he's throwing the ball and running the ball at an effective rate, Florida is going to be... Florida can definitely give Georgia more of a run than a lot of people think they can, but the Gator defense has got to keep the Georgia offense off the field, and that, I think, is the biggest thing in this game, because Georgia is a good enough offense to where you are going to go, or to where Georgia's going to go score enough points. They're going to go score enough points they need to win the game. Phrased horribly, I know, I was trying to think of a better way to say it, I apologize. Because on the other side of the ball, we know this Georgia defense is capable of slowing down pretty much anyone in America. That's why I don't see Florida pulling off the upset. In fact, I think Georgia wins this one big. 41-20 is my final score from Jacksonville. This is the 3:30 slot on CBS. This game, huge game in the American Athletic Conference, as the Cincinnati Bearcats, ranked 20th in the nation, go on the road to face the UCF Knights, who are coming off a loss in their last game against the East Carolina Pirates. Not going to say I called that one because I thought the game would be closer and it would go either way. Yes, I did pick East Carolina to win, but man, I did not think it would be that much of a blowout. So UCF is going to look to rebound from that past game. Couple things you got to watch out for here. First, this is the Bearcats' first test since week 1. Not denoting the other opponents that they've played along the way, but this really is the Bearcats' first true test since they played Arkansas in week 1. And now you have to go on the road in another hostile environment in the Bounce House in Orlando and face a still really good UCF team. That's why Vegas has them as the 1.5-point favorite. So Cincinnati's got to come in here and play really, really well. They weren't able to get it done against Arkansas. They got to be able to get it done here against UCF. And here's something here. The Knights are 6th in total offense this year. 6th. And that's in terms of yards per game. The Bearcats are 17th in total defense. They've allowed the 17th fewest yards out of anyone in the nation this year. So, hey, unstoppable force, immovable object, they're going head-to-head this week. So that'll be really interesting to watch, and I'm absolutely fascinated to watch this quarterback battle and see how Ben Bryant, if he ends up being the starter, which I do believe he is going to be, and then John Rhys Plumlee, who has had his ups and downs this year, but has looked fairly solid as the quarterback of the UCF Knights. And when John Rhys Plumlee looks good, he looks really good. But there are times where John Rhys Plumlee doesn't necessarily look super sharp. And this is a Cincinnati defense that likes to get back to the quarterback. And they're going to put pressure on John Rhys Plumlee. Make no mistake about it. UCF has got to do the same thing on the defensive end. And I just don't know that UCF defensively is going to be able to keep up with Cincinnati. So I'm picking the Bearcats here in this one. I got 26-24 as my final score. UCF has got to be able to stop Cincinnati on the offensive end, and Cincinnati is a team that can grind out a win. So if this game is close down the stretch, Cincinnati absolutely is going to be a team to look for to grind out that win. So I got the Bearcats winning this one by 2 on the road in the Bounce House, and this game may cement Cincinnati, if they're able to pull it out, as the Group of 5 team to beat yet again. Now you got the Oklahoma State Cowboys and the Kansas State Wildcats. This, I think, is also going to be a fascinating game. But there is quarterback uncertainty for Kansas State. They are the 1.5-point favorites, according to Vegas. And Manhattan, Kansas, going to be a pretty good environment, I feel, in this one. But. Kansas State, look, this is a team that has a lot of quarterback uncertainty right now. And that is in partial fact due to... Yeah, okay. Sorry. My apologies. That is in partial fact due to... you have Adrian Martinez, who's down hurt right now. You have Will Howard, who got hurt in the game against TCU. The true freshman came in, threw one pass. It was a pick. So you had Will Howard play a little bit hobbled. So there's uncertainty right now at the quarterback position for Kansas State. And we'll see what way they lean before this game kicks off. I'd be really interested to see who plays quarterback for the Wildcats, which may prove to be a big factor down the line here in this game. The Pokes defense has had trouble preventing scoring this year. They've definitely taken a step back from what they were under Jim Knowles. However, this defense gets a lot of pressure, and with the quarterback uncertainty for Kansas State, especially if you have to play a guy like Will Howard, who doesn't necessarily have the scrambling ability that a guy like Adrian Martinez does, that's going to provide a lot of trouble for this Kansas State offense to really get the ball rolling. And I think it's about time that Spencer Sanders has a consistent performance. He's been inconsistent this year. He's had some good performances, some bad performances, some mixed bags. It's been a mixed bag for Spencer Sanders is what I'm trying to say. And this very well could be a game where Spencer Sanders goes out and shines and performs really well. And I'm kind of thinking that's what happens here. Coupled with the quarterback uncertainty for Kansas State, and with the way the Oklahoma State's defense is able to get pressure, and with the aggressiveness that they can play with on that side of the ball, I got the Pokes walking away with a win from Manhattan, Kansas. I got them winning this one by 5. It's a 3:30 game on Fox. Definitely think this is going to be a really interesting game to watch, and Kansas State is going to score, and they're going to keep it close, but I just think Oklahoma State, Spencer Sanders and that defense do enough to be able to pull out this win. Moving on now to the night slate of games. Hey, look, I'm not going to dwell on this one for too long, because when I first looked at this game about 3 weeks ago, a month ago, something like that, Me and a buddy were looking at USC's schedule, and we both pointed at this game and said, hey, USC can't sleepwalk through this game. They're the 15.5-point favorite, and Arizona is much better than people may think Arizona actually is. The Wildcats are a much improved football team this year, but there are way too many factors against Arizona State for this game. First off, they've lost 3 out of their last 4. Their lone win against Colorado, which doesn't really count. Colorado's not a very good football team. But the Zona defense in those 3 losses, or in 3 of their last 4 games, have allowed over 580 yards of total offense. And when you go play a team like USC, look, that just cannot happen. It can't happen. So, hey, look, this is a USC team that scores a lot of points. They're really good offensively with Caleb Williams and with everything else that USC is able to throw at opponents from the offensive end. Yeah, this is a USC team that is going to be scary to face if you are an Arizona Wildcats fan. But if you want some positives out of the Wildcats, okay, well, their pass game has been pretty good, and it is going to test USC's defensive backs. However, this USC offense, I think, is just too good. Zona's going to need a lot of defensive stops, be able to force takeaways, and takeaways are one part where USC also excels. I believe they have the best turnover margin in the nation right now. Arizona, look, I know I said chaos can reign supreme this week, but I don't see this one happening. I see USC being able to win pretty comfortably here, 45-20. This is another game that you got to watch out for if you are a college football fan. The Tennessee Volunteers are going to black out Neyland Stadium. They're wearing the black threads, and Kentucky comes into town. Now, this is a scary Kentucky team, and Kentucky is capable of pulling out this win. In fact, I think Kentucky's going to keep this one really close, a lot closer than the 12 points that Vegas is giving Tennessee on this game right now. Let's dive into some things that you need to watch out for. Can the Wildcats defense keep up with just the pace and the speed that Tennessee is able to play with, which is what killed Bama? Bama got on their heels because Tennessee was playing really, really fast, right? And Bama couldn't really get their defensive game plan fully intact, and that's why Tennessee was able to run all over Bama. So, can Kentucky's defense step it up here and be able to slow down the Tennessee offense, much like I talked about with Ohio State and Penn State? I think Kentucky, much like Penn State, has the pieces, to slow down this Tennessee offense. But much like with Ohio State and Tennessee, by far the 2 best offenses in the entire nation. You have to slow them down before you can stop them, which is hard enough. So good luck to the Kentucky defense being able to slow down this Tennessee offense. But when you look on the other side of the ball now, when Kentucky possesses the ball, Will Levis and the Cats' weapons are going to be able to, in my opinion, not necessarily have a field day, but I think they're going to be able to do some damage against a struggling Vols secondary. In fact, a struggling Vols defense, period. But especially in the secondaries where they are vulnerable. That's where Bryce Young and Bama was able to really hurt them, was in the passing game, because Tennessee does not have a great secondary. I believe they're allowing over 300 passing yards per game, which is not great. And Kentucky has one of the better quarterbacks in the nation in Will Levis, albeit he's been inconsistent and hasn't really played his best, in my opinion, this year so far. Tennessee's got to be able to step it up on defense as well. So both teams' defenses maybe need to take a step up, but time of possession is going to go a long way in deciding this game. Kentucky holds the ball for 35 minutes a game, and hey, the longer you keep that Tennessee offense off the field, the better, especially with how quick of a pace that Tennessee has to play. But that's the thing about Tennessee. They do not need to have the ball for 35 minutes a game in order to pull out and win. They can have the ball for 20 minutes and go out and win a game because the offense plays with that much speed and just that much tempo, and that's where I think Tennessee gets Kentucky. Tennessee will not win the time of possession battle in this game. Kentucky will, most likely, in my opinion, be the leader in time of possession. But with just the pace and the energy that this Tennessee offense plays with, and with how well Hendon Hooker is throwing the ball, I got to go with the Volunteers here. They win this one 34-31 as the Vols black out Neyland Stadium. All right, flat out, before I even dive into this game, I don't think this one is going to happen. So Michigan State fans, I'm sorry, but I do not think this win is going to happen for you guys. But the Michigan State Spartans going on the road to face the Michigan Wolverines, who are getting 23 points on the Spartans. Spartan fans, I know what I just said, but there is a scenario where you could pull out and win this game. Michigan State is a defense that thrives on takeaways. It's able to force turnovers, and really their offense, when that defense forces a turnover, gives them momentum and they're able to go score off of it. Michigan's just not a team that turns the football over. J.J. McCarthy's very smart with the ball. Blake Corum does not fumble it when he runs, and Michigan just doesn't make mistakes like that. So this is a Michigan team that, albeit they've had their turnover problems at times this year, but for the most part, this is a Michigan team that just doesn't turn the football over. So the Michigan State defense needs to force some takeaways here in this one, but that's the question, right? The Spartans defense, will it hold up, right? It's got to be able to slow this Michigan attack, and it first starts with stopping the run and stopping a Heisman candidate in Blake Corum. And then you have to worry about the most accurate passer in all of college football, and J.J. McCarthy, who has a lot of weapons that he can use on the outside. See what I told you about with my voice? I apologize for the long moments of silence. And if you're a Michigan State fan looking for some optimism, look at that bottom bullet point down there. Mel Tucker is unbeaten against the University of Michigan. He is 2-0. I believe last year when they beat him, it came out that he was the first coach to beat Michigan in his first 2 tries in both times, which is really, really impressive stuff. So, hey, can Michigan State go on the road and pull off an upset here? No. In fact, I don't even think this one is going to be close to happening. Michigan State may stay with them for a quarter or maybe quarter and a half, but at the end of the day, there's too many questions with Michigan State's defense. Michigan's offense is playing too well, and even that defense, I know they don't have the pass rush ability that they had last year, especially with guys like Hutchinson and Ojabo, but this is still a damn good Michigan team, and I think they go in here prime time on ABC, and they kind of stick it to their little brother, as Michigan were to refer to them as. So Michigan State, we'll see how this game plays out. Definitely going to be a rivalry game, a lot of energy and passion, but I just don't think Michigan State has it in them to pull off this upset. Give me the Wolverines by 17. All right, we got the Ole Miss Rebels going on the road to face the Texas A&M Aggies. Ole Miss, the slight favorite here, 1.5 points. They're going to try to look to get back in the win column after dropping their first game of the year to LSU last week. And I fully expect the Rebels defense to bounce back. They had a very poor performance against LSU last week. My apologies. But for the most part this year, this is an Ole Miss defense that has played really well. And the defense has continued to make improvements under Lane Kiffin, and it may have made a huge jump yet again this year. However, they kind of got torched by what LSU was able to do. And I think their defense is going to rebound for a couple of factors. One, Texas A&M is not able to throw what LSU was able to throw at Ole Miss from the offensive standpoint. A&M right now is dealing with some injuries, and the quarterback play not as good, in my opinion, as what LSU has with Jaden Daniels right now. So I fully expect the Rebels defense to bounce back from this past week and play a good game. But there are things going for Texas A&M. Look, first of all, the Aggies defense needs to be able to hold this dynamic Rebel offense, and not necessarily everywhere, but make Jackson Dart try to win the game. Because Ole Miss, look, they're rushing the ball for 250 yards per game. That is third in the entire nation. Of course, you're going to have your Army, your Navy, your Air Force up there. They're ahead of Navy in terms of rushing yards per game, which means this rushing attack is really, really, really good. So Texas A&M is going to have to be able to key in on what Ole Miss is doing from the running game standpoint. But also, Ole Miss in the passing game, they're going to have to make some plays there as well. But my final bullet point there, the Aggies need enough offense to be able to outscore this Ole Miss team. And that is why I think Texas A&M, yes, they have a shot to win this game, but that's why I'm not confident in picking Texas A&M. I know. You don't have to tell me this. I know Texas A&M has a lot of guys in that locker room, supposedly, and I think we're really going to find this out tomorrow when this game kicks off. But I think Texas A&M has a lot of guys in that locker room that still have a winning spirit, that still have a winning mindset, right? And I know Jimbo Fisher is getting a lot of hate and criticism right now. But look, the fact of the matter is, I think this is going to be a motivated Texas A&M team. And if it isn't, we could see Jimbo Fisher be making his way out of town a lot sooner than pretty much everyone that expects. And I just don't trust picking Texas A&M at this point in time. That's why I am going with the Ole Miss Rebels to go on the road and pull out the win. By the way, this is the first home game for Texas A&M in over a month. I think their first true or their last true home game was on the 17th of September. So Texas A&M finally back home. Maybe the crowd gives them a boost, but I think Ole Miss comes in here and wins the football game. And the last game I had previewed up for you guys, the Pittsburgh Panthers going on the road to face the North Carolina Tar Heels. In Pittsburgh, it's been an up and down season for the Panthers. Hasn't it been? Really has just been sort of all over the place when you talk about this Pittsburgh Panther team. There's been a lot of inconsistencies and performances where they look really good and then they don't look good. It's a whole bunch of mess for Pitt right now. However, North Carolina, they have looked really, really good this year and by far, in my opinion, should be that odds-on favorite to go win the ACC Coastal. Now, what do these teams have to do to win this game? Well, the Panthers' defense has got to be able to contain Drake May. Drake May is a dynamic playmaker on the offensive end. He's a very good quarterback for North Carolina. And he's only a true freshman. He's going to be around this program for a long, long time. And North Carolina is going to be good to have him for it. He has played outstanding this year. That's the first part of the Panthers' defensive game plan. You got to be able to slow down the quarterback in Drake May. But what do the Panthers need to do for success on the offensive end? Well, I'm glad you asked. The Panthers' success has been based on their effectiveness of their ground game. When Pitt is able to run the ball really well, in fact, I believe I saw a stat somewhere. I believe they are 3-0 in games where they rush for over 200 yards and 1-3 this year in games that they don't. So being able to run the ball effectively is going to be a key aspect in this game here. And it's a North Carolina defense that, let's be honest, it's looked a lot better than it did the first couple weeks of the season, but it still is not fantastic. And I think Pitt can take advantage of that, especially with a guy as talented as Israel Abanikanda on the ground. But turnovers have plagued Pitt, and I think they cost them here again in this game. I got North Carolina winning this one by 5. Both these teams are going to score points, and I think both these teams are going to have pretty solid offensive outings. But the turnovers for Pitt, they just scare me, and I don't know that Pitt is going to be able to overcome their turnover woes if they continue here in this game. So that's why I'm picking North Carolina to win this one, and that's going to do it. My Week 9 predictions, guys. Again, I predicted a couple upsets here in this one. We'll see if they play out or if any of the other games here play out as upsets. But I'm telling you, there are more games on this list that I didn't mention that are upset potential. If there's a week where chaos is going to reign, it will be Week 9 of the college football season. College football playoff rankings come out Tuesday, and I can't wait to watch the games this weekend. Enjoy your college football Saturday, and remember to play hard. But tailgate harder. My Ohio State fan reaction will be out sometime tomorrow. Look forward to it. See all you guys then. Goodbye.